Hey guys, Matt here. This is my review of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This movie is directed by Quentin Tarantino, who previously directed Glorious Bastards, Hateful Eight, and Pulp Fiction. This movie stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, and Margot Robbie. This movie is about two men, Rick Dalton, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, and Cliff Booth, played by Brad Pitt. Leo's the actor, Brad is the stuntman. And the movie's about their friendship, but also them as individuals dealing with the times changing. Rick is going from a TV actor to a movie star, where he's getting older, so work isn't coming as frequently as he'd like. Same thing with Brad Pitt. This movie also features Margot Robbie, who plays Sharon Tate. And if you don't know who she was an actress, but she's most famously known for being involved in the Charles Manson murders. Now, going into this movie, I was excited because it's Quentin Tarantino. And Tarantino has now established himself as one of those directors that can sell his movie. Regardless of what the movie's about, he's one of those few guys that the name sells the movie and not necessarily the actors or the movie itself. Having seen the trailer, I thought, okay, this is going to be very Tarantino, where it's probably going to move slow. The dialogue's going to be rich and well written, but the plot may not be all that interesting. So I saw the movie, and I was right. That's what we got. But even though this movie itself as a whole may have been dull, there are parts dispersed throughout the film that make it worthwhile. Now, let me start with the acting in this film. The acting from everybody involved is really good. Brad Pitt and Leo are the shining stars of this movie, but for different reasons. Leo is the main character. He's the actor Rick Dalton. So seeing him struggle with this profession that is acting, but also getting to know him personally, that was intriguing. That's what you paid attention to. However, I would say the standout of this movie is Brad Pitt. He's very carefree, laid back, almost like Matthew McConaughey. It's like if Brad Pitt's character from True Romance wasn't just a stoner who stayed on the couch all day, but actually went out and did something. That's what his personality is like. So Brad Pitt was the standout because of his personality, but Leo was a standout because of his acting ability. Margot Robbie's also in this film, but she's given very little to do. However, she's good with the lines she's given, but she doesn't have a whole lot of lines. It shows her. And you do get to know her in a couple scenes that shows her personality and her lifestyle, but she's not in this movie quite as much as I thought she'd be. And there are a lot of actors and actresses in this film. A lot of them are, Tarantino muses, like Kurt Russell, Michael Madsen, a couple others. Some of their roles were necessary and like, oh, okay, I'm glad this character's in the movie. But then others were just like, oh, hey, is that Damian Lewis? Is Steve McQueen? Or, oh, hey, is that so-and-so? So a lot of the roles were like that, where you were almost taken out of the scene because you were like, oh my gosh, that's Kevin Smith's daughter, or something like that. You were pointing out who the actor or actress was as opposed to being riveted by their character. Since this is a Tarantino film, Tarantino is able to take certain liberties with what he shows and displays on screen, including his fetishes for feet. Yes, there are a lot of scenes of people's feet, but he also has the scenes where characters are just sitting around talking. Just everyday, normal conversation, but the way Tarantino writes it and directs it, and the way that these conversations are acted, they're engaging. They could be simple conversations, but you're intrigued. For instance, there's a scene with Leonardo DiCaprio and this young actress who's 9 years old. They're talking about the performances they have to give, the scenes they have to act, the books they're reading during a break between shooting. And it's just so well done that the conversation is about nothing, but you're intrigued by it. Now, there are also a couple things that Tarantino does where his plot lines meander. Or it's almost as if Tarantino and a couple of the writers or producers were like, hey, what would be funny is if we put this joke in the movie. But the joke comes off as subverting the audience expectations, where this scene will occur, and it may seem like it's nonsense or doesn't fit in the story, but then it will wrap around later in the movie. Some scenes like that work, others don't and seem to be a waste of time, including this small portion of the film that's going into the third act of Kurt Russell doing narration. There's a time jump of 6 months, and instead of showing the audience what's going on in like a montage, they have Kurt Russell narrate what's going on, and it just takes you out of the movie because it's a lot of useless information. And of course, Tarantino has his little nods and references to other films, including the Red Apple cigarettes, and even one that I don't think a lot of people noticed, where they mentioned a director named Antonio Margaretti, who, if you've seen *Inglourious Basterds*, is one of the names one of Brad Pitt's bastards use in the movie. So I thought that was nice. But there's a couple little things where if you are a casual Tarantino fan, you'll pick up on and you'll appreciate. Something else that Tarantino tends to do is whenever a scene calls for violence, and I mean like lots of violence, gory violence, graphic violence, Tarantino likes to make it fun. If a character is bleeding all over the place, let's say, he likes to put a funky soundtrack to it. Look at Pulp Fiction. Look at Reservoir Dogs. Look at Kill Bill. He likes to balance this horror with fun in the form of music. It totally sets the tone and mood of what you're watching. It's like watching Wolf of Wall Street or Goodfellas. The characters in the movie are not nice people, but the way they're displayed, joking around, having fun, doing whatever they want, it seems fun. It seems almost inviting. So that's something I picked up on that I appreciate when it comes to Tarantino. Also, the set design and production is awesome. It's the reason the production budget for this film is so high. It's because Tarantino went out of his way to make this area of Los Angeles look like Los Angeles in the 1960s. The signs, the sets, the article of clothing, the vehicles, everything looks authentic. Films like this beg the question, if the parts of the film are great, such as the writing, the acting, the directing, and the set design, does that mean the whole film is great? That's something you have to decide for yourself. This was not my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie. This is a story that doesn't have a plot. It's not linear. It's more like an insight into 2 days and 6 months into characters' lives. But it's intriguing. It's about nothing, but there's something to it. So because of that, I'm going to give Once Upon a Time in Hollywood an A-. If you like Tarantino, you're going to like this movie a lot. If you're not a fan of Tarantino, you're probably going to ask yourself, what is this movie about? And why is there so much violence? So, till next time, guys. See ya.